Hey guys, welcome to episode 11 of Challenging Chats. Sorry guys, I had to think about that for a while. Challenging Chats with Dev and Steph. It's going to be a good one. This episode is about a question that actually came in last night. Should your children fear you? Sorry
you
about that.
as
I had to make
parents.
sure
Yeah.
all right. Should your children fear you? So we're going to talk about parenting today. If you got kids or if you know somebody that has kids, you can share this video. We talk about it because I'm sure this is a hot topic.
And we should probably
I
also
can
give
guarantee that you got.
our experience,
Yes.
right? Like we do have children.
So we
I
have
don't
kids.
like people that give parenting
Yeah.
advice and have no children.
We're not just spitting advice while not doing it. We practice what we preach here because we've been through it and we found out what works. And, and that's one thing.
And there's
Parenting.
not a
You gotta
one
figure
size
out-
fits all.
No, there isn't.
So let's qualify everything that we're going to say today
Yeah.
with the fact that we 100% believe that nothing works for every single child
100%
every
of the
single time.
There's
Like,
nothing. There's no 100%
man,
answer.
That's one thing
every
I've
time.
had to learn is to be very flexible in how I discipline my children. Not only because the two are very different, but also things work differently for my child in different days. It's just
Yeah.
we need
So-
Jesus so much to do this
Yeah,
well.
in
But
parenting, first thing you need is the Lord because He helps a
He
ton.
does.
He gives you all sorts of wisdom. Sometimes Stephanie has said some stuff, and then afterwards I'll be like, "That was really awesome," or she'll look to me and she'll be like, "Wow." She's like,
I'm like, "Yeah, that's
sometimes
great."
we're like, "That's some wisdom right there coming out." So, but that's a lot of God. That's all the Lord.
Yes,
But
for sure.
to give you context, our daughter is the type of personality. She's outgoing.
Mm-hmm. She's 10,
She's
first off.
she's
She's
10.
10 years old.
She's an extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
But she is also very concerned about what people think. Very concerned about what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And if we verbally disapprove of something or verbally get on to her, it's the end of the world. She used to have this thing, not so much anymore, but where we would get on to her to tell her, hey, like sometimes you could just say her name and she would like put her head down, start crying and run away.
Run away. Yeah.
Which
Because she didn't want to
gets
deal
old,
with it.
Which gets old immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our daughter. Our son, opposite.
The opposite.
This kid, when he was
Absolute
3 years old,
opposite.
when he was a little man, bowed up his fist at me while I was getting on to him. I was like, Ethan, you don't do that. And he turned, and I'm like, and I got up close to him, and he looked tiny little human being, just like I will, like he was gonna hit me. No fear, no problem being defiant.
Doesn't care what others think about him.
Doesn't care what other things about him. Doesn't really care about
doesn't
your rules.
care about rules. He thinks they're irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like why should he have to? They're your rules, not his, right?
Yeah.
He is very confident in himself and what he thinks and what he
Extremely
feels.
confident.
But he's also a tender soul.
Yeah. Also sensitive.
So
It's a
he's
weird
very,
combo.
He's I'd say he's very thoughtful of other people in a lot of ways. He's very kind.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's really great with his little cousins, things like that. So it's not like he's like this horrible little human or something like that. No, he just is very strong-willed and very self-assured. And because of that, he doesn't believe that you should impose your will on him, right? He, like in his mind, like whether that's rules or your thoughts, your feelings, nothing. He doesn't care. It's irrelevant.
So
He is his own person.
so our tactics
Very different.
very different.
Oh my goodness, so different.
Very
for the two.
different. With our daughter, all literally, like I don't know. We do believe in spanking, but we've
So I guess let's answer that initial question then.
yes.
Because remember, this isn't actually a spanking podcast. This is, should your children
Spanking podcast.
fear you as a parent? Should they fear you as a parent?
Yes.
And I guess you have to,
That's
why?
my
Why do you think
answer
that's okay?
is yes. There should be some fear.
Because you're
My
going to have
dad-
someone that's going to say like, you want your children to be afraid of you? You want them to be terrified of you? and they
And
start
I do want there to be a.
but
I do want
but
there
I
to be
feel
some
like
fear.
that's always what happens, right? Is if you say like, yes, they should have a healthy fear, right? Because we're talking about a healthy fear.
Healthy fear,
People are
yeah.
like, there's, oh, so you just want them to be afraid of you. You want them to be terrified of you. I was like, that's not actually
No.
what I said. And I think in this podcast, we're going to try to distinguish between those because I've experienced as a child growing up the difference between a healthy fear and a true terror.
And I've had
of
a
your
healthy
parents.
fear.
And those are two different things.
I
And,
had. Yeah. My parents.
do we
were
believe in a
really
healthy fear of
awesome.
your parents? 100%. I
Yes.
even would say it's necessary if you're going to parent well. So
Yeah. And to give you guys some context, just some background on us. So my parents definitely believed in spanking when I was a kid. But it was something that wasn't just like any little thing you got. Like if you got a spanking, it was because you were doing something bad. Like and it wasn't actually. My parents did not. They didn't do it equally to everybody. I definitely got more spankings than my youngest sister. My middle sister, I don't know. I'd say we're probably about even because we're right on par there. But they were a big believer in that. And I remember the first time I was telling Stephanie that I got in trouble, and my dad, he'd spanked me and then asked if I was ready to apologize for what I did, and I didn't. I doubled down, whatever. And so, but he let me have it good, and it clicked. Like I went back in. I had done something to my mom, and funny story, but I won't waste time. But I went back in and I was like, I'm sorry. I apologized. And I was like, I thought he was going to kill me. And so I whispered, she always likes to share that story. And from that moment on, whenever I'd get in trouble, this is funny. I'd get in trouble for something. They'd be like, all right. And I'd push the boundaries. They'd be like, all right. Said, I think you're going to get a spanking. And I'd be like, whoa, hold on. Time out. You know what I realized? I realized I was wrong. I was wrong for what I did. Mm-hmm. And you know what? You're totally right. I was out of line. I shouldn't have done that thing. And I've learned a valuable lesson. And there's no need to spank me because I've learned that I'm not going to do it again.
and that would be our
Appreciate
daughter.
you. And
That's
that is
our daughter. That would be Gabriella.
Yeah, but our daughter, you wouldn't even have to do that.
You wouldn't even
too.
have to. But she's immediately regretful, right? Like,
Yes.
I don't know why I ever did that. And she goes into self-loathing. So that's something we have to work with on her and balance it with
Yeah.
her. Our son, no.
Doubles down.
Doubles down. Not as much anymore, thankfully. But from the time he was about 2 to the time he was about 5. So we had a 2.5, 3 year
Yeah, it was about 5.
season that he was very defiant, right? Man, I can't even tell you how difficult that time was for me as his
He
mom.
would continually challenge, and he would wear
It was just exhausting because
it was
never stopped
challenging every day,
about
every
everything.
time.
And even if he was the type that even if he liked something or he himself would want to do something, if you said it, right, then suddenly it was the opposite. So he was just oppositional. Like that's where he was as a child. And so that was really difficult. But I feel like we should probably rewind real quick just to do the fear part. Like why do I think that's necessary? Right?
Yes.
Why should my children fear me as a parent? Like why is that even necessary?
And I think you should also talk about how we achieve that, because it wasn't like
Yeah.
I don't want to say spank like you think. Oh,
No.
we're coming in
exactly.
strong.
But I think that's
Whatever.
why
Like,
we should define what do I mean by healthy fear and why is that necessary? So some people think like, no, they shouldn't fear you at all. You should be able to parent them without any type of fear. And I think that's assuming that your kids are at a maturity level of already getting close to adulthood where they're able to respect somebody and appreciate somebody and therefore listen to them and trust their judgment, right? But if we're talking about young children, they're not at the maturity level to be able to respond to that yet.
Well,
But
and
they are in situations not only that are very dangerous, and I need you to respond immediately and trust that my judgment is sound,
Yeah.
right? When you don't want to, but but also are acting in ways that eventually are going to lead to some really, like, for instance, hitting others, right?
Yeah.
Okay, as a 3-year-old, you're going to receive a lot of grace and mercy for that, right? But if you continue this behavior later on, this is going to go really poorly for you, right? And so it's understanding that.
And
but my
our 3-year-old,
4-year-old is not at the maturity level to sit down with me and reason this out, right? And
You
to be like, you know what, Mom, that makes sense. That's logical. I appreciate, that 10 years from now, my actions are not going to be healthy for me. And so I have decided that I'm going to listen to you. And I'm going to, no, that's not happening. You might, in fact, have a 3-year-old who's extremely rational, because I'm not saying that that's not possible. But I'm saying for the majority of children, that is not the thought process.
we should
right?
let them
That's
know
not
about what
happening.
Ethan decided to say when he went to preschool.
Well, maybe we'll come to that in a second. But so what instead they need is to understand that there are consequences to these actions. And as your parent, I'm enforcing a lot of these consequences because life has consequences. You've got to learn this lesson now, because if you don't, again, later on, this is really not going to go well for you. And so the fear aspect is the fear of consequences. And that's a healthy fear, because again, I'm teaching you about life, and guess what? You get to make your own choices in life, but what I tell my children is you don't get to choose the consequences, right? Life decides those. So I need to instill in them the understanding that your actions have consequences. They have really good ones if you make really good choices, and they have really bad ones if you make really bad choices. And so you need to have a healthy fear of me enacting those consequences that I let you know. So we don't, my kids understand very clearly what consequences are in our house, right? We set them up. You know what's going to happen. If you act a certain way, it's no surprise, right? I don't believe in surprising your children with consequences, right? I think that makes them angry and it's unfair. But healthy fear is necessary in the same way that I have a healthy fear of electricity. Right? I think it's great.
Fire.
I appreciate it. Like, I love having lights and AC, but it doesn't mean I'm going to go out there and grab the live wire. I have a healthy fear of that, even though I understand that there's also really good benefits, right? I have a healthy fear of water. Not that I'm afraid to go swimming or anything like that, but I'm afraid to do it in a way that's unsafe. Don't drop me off in the middle of the ocean and tell me to swim to shore. I will die. I have a healthy fear of that. No, thank you. Right? Doesn't mean that I'm terrified of water in all of its forms, but I have a healthy fear that there are consequences and poor decisions in regard. So it's the same thing, because in the same way, my job, especially when my children are really young, is to protect them, right? To protect them from immediate danger that they seem to inevitably be placing themselves in, and future danger to their well-being. And that's why healthy fear is necessary. It is good. It is not manipulative. It is not, bad for them. It's good for them. However, that requires a parent who's walking in some serious self-control, right? And leading of the Holy Spirit, and not just flying off the handle, right? Someone who's exhibiting the same things you're trying. So if I'm trying to teach my child self-control because they're lashing out and hitting children, then I need to be able to then approach my child to discipline them, to still be like, that's absolutely unacceptable. You cannot do that. But if I'm not exhibiting the self-control that I'm asking them to exhibit, then I'm a hypocrite. Right. And I'm not actually parenting well, even though I'm trying to discipline them. Right. And so understanding that while we're saying, yes, your children should have a healthy fear of you, it doesn't mean that's not like just get out of jail free pass for parents to just act in any way that they want.
Just go off the handle on your kids, either verbally.
I don't believe in that at all, because that does lead to that being afraid of your parents 24/7, having no desire to spend time with them, right? Avoiding your parents at all costs, which is how I grew up. And that's not healthy. That's not good. That's not what the Bible talks about.
Being a parent is not an excuse for just
for you to be a tyrant.
Disciplining your child is not an excuse for you to fly off the handle and release whatever it is that you're going through, because they will.
That is also unacceptable.
Yeah, they will do things and
you need to know yourself and
know
when
yourself.
To tap out.
Sometimes you just gotta walk away. Sometimes I catch you off guard. I'll tell you what, Ethan shot me in the eye while I was taking a nap on the couch with his Nerf gun, and
He didn't know that it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
He did intend to shoot you,
Yes, he didn't.
but he
intend to
was
shoot
not
me.
aiming for
He
your
wasn't aiming for
face.
but he got me right in the eye while I woke up,
You
half
woke up
sleep.
in a
Oh
rage.
man. So and we all, and here's the thing too, guys, is I think, also if you do have a moment where you go off and maybe you say something hurtful to your child, or you act, whatever you do, like it's really important that in those times that you mess up, that you go and you say,
100%.
hey, look,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. I messed up. Because what that shows to them is my mom and dad make mistakes. So it shows to them, A, you're human, which you are. You're not God, all right? You don't handle every situation. You're not going to handle every situation perfectly. And so it's important that when you make mistakes, you do that. So you show them, hey, I'm human. I make mistakes. But also, I'm humble enough to be willing to be like, hey, would you forgive me of that mistake? And it builds trust. It builds this relationship. And so, my parents did that with me. I've done that. I've had to do that. I've had to apologize to my kids and be like, look, I'm sorry. One time I told them, hey, like they were just going off. They're being disrespectful. And I was like, look, I'm not one of your little friends. You don't get to say, whatever you want to me. And then my daughter started crying, and she was like, and I was like, what are you crying about? She's like, you said you're not our friends, but we love to play with you. I'm like, I'm sorry. Okay, look, I'm sorry. That's not how I meant it. I didn't mean we're not, it doesn't mean like that. I just,
Yeah.
But I think in doing that, like in setting firm boundaries,
Yes.
and then executing on the words you say, what you do is you build that respect, and then your kids start to understand, I gotta respect. I need to do what they say in order to, get my desired outcome. And they learn, and it not only does it help them, not only does it help you in dealing with your children, which it does make life easier when you set boundaries and you follow up and they have consequences, because then they understand. And so then they start to abide by those same terms. So that makes your life easier, but it doesn't just do that. It also helps them when they get older not to be in jail because they mouthed off to a cop, or not to get shot because they did something dumb in the same kind of interaction. I mean, a lot of stuff, a lot of things that we see is just senseless things that people do because at one point in time their parents didn't love them enough to follow through on setting up those boundaries and doing this thing.
And
this is where
clear.
And I think this is where something that we overlook is that sometimes setting boundaries, like for one of the ones that we will use from time to time, but we also have to check with each other on, is taking away TV, because that our daughter loves screen time. Kids, they're big on screen time. But when we do that usually
that's the
means
ultimate for Abriella. That is, she will ask for a spanking.
Yes.
Instead, that's
She
her
will,
ultimate.
her
That's
favorite,
the one thing. Please don't take it from me.
Don't take away that. Don't take. But the thing is that some people, they don't want to use that because it's easier for me if they just go sit in front of a TV than if I actually have to deal with my kids and interact and do that. And so, this is one of those things where, sometimes parenting is difficult. Sometimes it means that you're going to get interrupted with whatever you're doing. But that is part of the job. That is part
and
of
I think
the
that
deal.
goes into your perspective of parenting, right? So we approach parenting as stewardship, right? Of fully formed human individuals created by God, right? They do not belong to me. So I do not have unilateral rights over them, right? That would be a misuse of the position of authority that God has given me for a time in their lives, right? So we're not tyrants, or you ought not be. And if that's how you approach parenting, that it's my way or the highway, and only because I said so, then you should check your heart, right? Like, you need to go before the Lord, because in love, we're stewarding these children, which requires, like you said, good parenting.
You won't have kids that
difficult.
love you if you parent like that.
And so
your
in
kids will leave
approaching
your house
it,
and they will say,
in
adios, I'll never see
approaching
you
it like
again.
that, we're saying sometimes we have to do the hard things. we have to do hard discipline that I don't enjoy spanking my children. I don't enjoy taking away privilege. I don't enjoy any of that. I really hate it. And yet I understand the need for it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But in knowing that, then we're trying to make it as fair for our children as we can, which is why we don't do surprise consequences, which is why we sit down with them. And while we can't, depending on the age that they're at, we can't reason everything out with them. I've always from the very beginning, because I always heard because I said so. And I'm like, that's a terrible reason. I need to understand why we're making these decisions, because if I don't,
it isn't when they're tiny.
Exactly. But how can I ever make good decisions myself? Because you're not telling me why, and I need to understand the why. And I appreciate that thought process, which Ethan especially has. Aubriella somewhat, but Ethan especially. He needs to understand. And so when they're 2, I don't have time to explain to you why you can't run out in front of that car in this moment. You just need to not do it because I said not to. Yeah. Right. And later I'll explain to you why. But as they're getting older and we're setting firm boundaries and we're saying, if you do this, this will be the consequence. And then I'm going to help you understand the why. Why can't you just watch TV 24/7? Okay, well, let's sit down and let's explain how this affects your brain and how it affects relationships and how it affects all this other stuff, right? And I'll give you some brief explanation. So you can see I'm not making rules because I love rules. Okay, we're trying to have rules that are actually for your good. And if you cross the line, you should fear the consequence, right? And I'm the one who enacts the consequence. So yes, that's where the fear of me comes in. But understand that my children don't fear me outside of that realm, right? They understand as long as we're functioning within the boundaries that are totally okay, we have a great time. Aubriella's always like, let's play a game. Can we spend time? Like Devin said, she was sad that she thought daddy didn't want to be her friend. Our children enjoy spending time with us. They don't live their lives afraid that we're just suddenly going to be angry or whatever. No, they know exactly why, right? When that happens, they know they've crossed a line, and then they do fear the consequence because they know what's coming, because we've already told them, you speak this way, this is what's going to happen. You hit somebody, this is what's going to happen. And it's all very clear and we lay it out. And I will say also that we don't hold to things just because there have been times, especially my son, but my daughter as well, will come to me and be like, but you said da, 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 da. And I'm like, you're right. I did say that. And so I can understand why you did this. And so today we're going to change things up, and so even I listen to them because sometimes I am wrong. Sometimes I have made a mistake in my parenting or in discipline or whatever. And I'm willing
they do remember what
listen.
You say.
Yeah. And so I'm also willing to listen to their input. Right. So again, fear lasts for a certain amount where that's the prime motivator with my children. Again, probably because they're constantly putting themselves in very dangerous situations, right? They're trying to stick their fingers in electrical sockets. They're running in front of cars. They're hiding from me in the store in a place where there's like 5,000 people and you could easily be taken. Like all this stuff that I'm like, I need you to obey me immediately because, right? And if you don't, I will whop your bottom, right? Because that is the only thing that will motivate them at that moment, because you cannot reason with them. It doesn't compute, right? But as they're getting older, I want fear to be less and less of a motivator, right? Of me enacting consequences and more. And exactly. And for more of I respect your judgment because I know you love me. And so far you've proven that you've had reasons, good reasons, loving reasons for the things that the rules that you've given. And that we've built now this relationship of trust. And then as they're maturing into adults, it's trust and love. That's the motivator of listening to what I have to say,
and how we the consequences evolve over time too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So our consequences are we're not
almost never. I don't think we spank anymore.
We don't do that.
Really don't
because
do it.
We don't have to because
they're 10 and 8. We're past that.
We take away things
exactly,
and that's they has to be now. Now we're at the age of, can I please get a spanking?
Yeah, because then I get it over with.
No, you may not. Because they're like, they understand, hey, let's get this done with, and then we can move on. But yeah, it's funny. I remember I took something away. TV away from Aubrey. I was like, please, Dad, please just spank me. Please,
spank
I'd rather.
me, or I'll give you all the money I've saved. Can I give you all the money I've saved?
Can I do this? I'll pay the fine.
I'll clean the
whatever I
whole
have to
house
do.
by myself. Like
Instead of-
Gabriella will
I'm
come
like,
up with everything else.
Like you're just selling me on that
we made the
I
right
did the right
choice.
thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, but it's cool because when you raise your kids this way, it takes time, takes effort. It's not easy.
It takes being intentional again, and I
it
can't
takes
say this
loving your
enough. You
kids.
cannot just parent all willy nilly and then be like your kid should just respect it and follow you.
Well,
Like,
and here's the thing. Here's a
that's
pro
not reasonable.
tip for everyone that's wondering, why you're having an issue with your children. If you're watching this, you have an issue with your children. It is like almost 99% of the time, 0.9% of the time. I guarantee you, it's because you're either A, not setting up any. There's no consequences for actions, or B, not following through with sticking to a
Which
standard.
is why, again, intentional parenting, be intentional
Yeah.
ahead of time
Yeah.
with what your with what is
Set
acceptable
the
and what your
expectations and
consequences.
set the consequences.
Do not, and we've discussed this, right? Do not pick a consequence that you cannot follow through with. Because
Stephanie gets
sometimes you
mad
go
if I say
extreme.
no TV for a week and then I'm not going to be there.
Yeah, but not only that, but in general, like if you're heated in the moment, you go extreme, right? Or
Yeah.
you do something that has nothing to do with the behavior, right?
Yeah.
And then you
Or
regret
you do
it.
something that's like way over the top.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Extreme. Like it's too much. It's too much.
We've both been guilty
Right.
of
And
that,
so
and I've
don't
been
do
like-
that. Don't
and
do
we-
that.
We've both come to each other and been like, hey, this is a little ridiculous.
It's a little too much.
It's a little too much. But
again, in those moments too, we also go back and we're like, you know what? I was wrong. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled at you. Or I'm sorry. I shouldn't have taken this away because that doesn't make sense. Instead,
Yeah, it
let's
was
do this
too-
or whatever,
yeah.
because
And
you're going to
it's-
make mistakes and that's okay.
Yeah,
but
and
you
it-
still should be intentional. You should not walk through parenting 24/7 being like, I could have done better. I could have done better. Like at some point, friend, you need to go and pray and read a book or something.
'cause
Get some help. Get
we're
some
talking
wisdom.
years
Get some
here.
advice.
You have years of opportunities.
Yeah, and try to
Opportunity.
be intentional ahead of time so that you're not causing all that. Because the Bible is pretty clear that you shouldn't provoke your kids to wrath.
Yeah.
Okay, that is our responsibility. But there's plenty of parents that they live on the power high of you have to do whatever I say because I'm the parent, and I'm like, like again, that's not.
Yeah, you're not always.
You're
gonna
not
be in that-
stewarding.
Yeah. Well, and
You're
you're
not
not always
stewarding
going
like
to
God
be in
wants
that
you to.
position of
No.
authority. You want to create. You want to raise kids who have the
You're
ability to think for
teaching.
themselves, and so that way, once they get to the age of adulthood where they can do their own thing, they have all the tools they need to be able to go out into the world and to do great. And the cool thing is that when you do that too, when you raise kids the way that we are, and I can say that with confidence because I was raised this way.
Mm-hmm.
You have children who not only are good citizens and good people that are going to have a positive impact on the world, but you also raise kids who later on, like when we're old, like I don't have any doubt in my mind our kids are going to be like, hey, how can we help you out and everything like that, because they love us and they've already talked about
And they're
like,
already learning.
they're already like, I don't want to move
They're
too far
taking
away
baby
from home
steps
and things
towards
like
it, but
that.
they're already,
not
yeah.
in a weird way, but they they understand the concept of the importance of family and how I'm a part of a family, and we don't just do.
They're
things.
sad if they don't see us.
Yeah, they're
For
sad
a day,
if they don't see
like
us.
if Devin's had a really long work day, because generally I get up with the kids to get them ready for school, and you start work, and sometimes you either have to travel or something else has come up, and you're just gone all day, and the kids, bedtime rolls around, and they are both, but especially my son, but both are like, we haven't seen daddy all day though. Like, so again, we have good relationships with our children, but it's because we're actively pursuing that. So I think if you don't see parenting as stewardship, one, of children whose God has given you, that he loves and that he is also defending, right?
Yeah.
And then also as this beautiful relationship that you get to grow with them, then you've got a problem. You need to go and ask the Lord to help change your perspective about parenting, because that should be the start. That should be where you're coming from. And then because as you're making mistakes, because this is the first time I've parented a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, right? This is first, it's the first for us too. You have the humility because in love, you're like, oh, I want to do this right. I want to do what's best for you. And I want to, make sure that you're healthy and happy. And I made a mistake and I'm really sorry. And I'm going to grow from this the same way I'm asking you to grow, because this is the first time you've been 10 and 8 and required to do all these things as well.
Yeah,
and that
grace.
perspective, I think, is what makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Right? Because even in mistakes, you're growing together. Right. And when
Well,
you get it
thing,
right,
too.
you're rejoicing together.
The cool thing is that, like, for like our son, how he told you at first, he, fist in your face kind of kid. Now, like, when we get onto him, initially he's resistant. After he's like, oh, I'm a terrible person. I'm awful.
Yeah, he has grown
we
so
had this,
much.
We
So
had
much
we
in
had a
this.
meltdown earlier this week when he wanted to play me in Madden, and he got humbled, and he was
lost.
lost
After
was
trash
upset
talking you
after
really
trash
bad.
talk and everything. And I was thought should I
He
let
had a
him
good
win
lesson
or,
in humility.
or
He
no,
needed
I
it.
should probably go ahead and win. And so, but then he comes, he's super upset, super, throws a huge tantrum when we get onto him, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm just awful."
I think this is
terrible."
where that wisdom
and then
comes
this
in.
is where we come in with him.
Wisdom
and
was
we're-
really important
and
in
we're
this
like,
one.
"Hey, we love you." Stephanie was like, "Okay, no PlayStation for a week,"
And he took it. He did.
and he didn't.
Actually,
have a
he was
meltdown.
like, I shouldn't have PlayStation for 2 years.
"Yeah, he's
Because
like,
I asked
shouldn't have
him,
for
what do you
years."
think would be a
'cause-
reasonable consequence here? And what needs to be taken away? And he was like, well, the PlayStation, he already knew, or he said all screens. And I was like, well, how about the PlayStation? And
Yeah.
I was like, what do you think would be a good amount of time for you to kind of take a break from it so that you feel, then you can come back and maybe do better? And he was like, 2 years. And I was like, really? You think 2 years? And he was like, 40 years. Anyway, in this case, though, before we even got to that, because he had an epic, and he hasn't had a meltdown like this. I can't even remember the last time. That's how long it's been. So it kind of caught me off guard. And he was screaming at the top of his lungs. Did he
had a
throw
li-
anything in the house?
He actually, I knew the last time he did because it was the last time that we actually played this.
Okay,
game.
so in this case,
So I
this
knew
is
in
a
this
particular
context,
area.
I knew this
that
is an
he's-
area of his weakness.
This is an
and
area
so,
of growth.
So we had played.
That's what we say.
We'd played like a week before, and he got really mad, and we didn't finish the game. He'd gotten mad because I did something and scored or whatever. And he's like, oh, and I'm like, hey, buddy, like, this is not your first time that your dad's played this game. Been playing for way longer than your lifetime. Like 3 of your lifetimes. Time to just take a little bit of a chill pill. It's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, he doesn't like to lose. So, but the cool thing is that you see him respond. He's grown in how he responds, and yeah, it's just awesome because then we get to be grace givers and be like,
Yeah.
hey, like,
'Cause he
it's
was in a
okay.
place
You're
to
all
receive
right.
grace?
Like yeah, because he's in a place to receive grace.
He had regret.
Because he's humble.
Yeah,
he
he
has
had
regret.
regret.
And so it's cool because you get to watch that as a parent. And then, like when you watch your kid going through something like that, then the Lord kind of uses that as an object lesson for us to be like, see, we see kind of how we are to him. And so, yeah, having kids is awesome because not only is it opportunity for ministry to create, literal ministry. This is your biggest ministry in your life. If you have children, is your children. It is not your church. If you're a pastor, if you're not, your family, that is your number one ministry opportunity because no one is going to get more time with you than these kids. So, yeah, I mean, it's awesome. We have that ability to influence them and watch them, and they've grown, and it's just really cool thing. I think we're way over time though.
This is also going to be a part 1, part 2.
I don't think.
Well,
I don't know how you could do it.
I feel like I
part
could
two.
speak to parenting probably more than just about anything else with the
Well,
amount
we
of
will-
growth I've had to do in this. But
Well, we will do more because this has been an area where both of us have grown. And I think Stephanie would say it's been like a kind of like transformative.
Oh, 100%.
As
And the
far as,
parent
like-
that I was when I first had kids versus the parent that I am now, I feel like I'm a totally different person.
Well, I don't even think as a
it's
parent,
totally
I think as
different.
a person.
Well, as a person,
like,
yes,
just
but parenting has been a big part of what has helped me
because
become a
that's
different
because
person.
you there really is nothing like, dealing with certain issues of your children, and then like it really clicks. They're like, man, Lord, this is me, isn't it?
Yeah.
You start like the Lord starts being like, see what I mean? See what I deal with? And it's cool because you get to be kind of you get a godlike perspective of dealing with someone who's they can only think about themselves, immature, can't do anything for themselves, can't pay for their bills, but they got loads of opinions and want to tell you exactly what. So it's fun though. And then you see both sides of it, but we love it. It's definitely a blast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love doing it. It's a lot to learn along the way.
Even with all the challenges.
Yeah, I could just have a parenting podcast and just go from phase to phase, day to day, and be like, oh my goodness, here's what I had to learn today.
Yeah.
In parenting. What I thought I knew yesterday, guess what? They woke up this morning totally different. Here we go. Like
That's okay. Longer parenting episode, no problem. We'll be doing more. So, hey, if you've enjoyed this podcast, go ahead and leave us a like. Comment if you didn't. If you think we're ridiculous, let us know. We're all about that interaction. So feel free to comment down below. Maybe, you completely disagree. Tell us why. But this has worked for us, and we feel like our kids are pretty awesome. So, we're going to keep on doing what we do. Sorry about that. We're just going to listen to Jesus and keep on rolling because that's how we go. But, hey, enjoyed you sharing this time with us. Hope you enjoyed it too. Until next time, we'll be seeing you. I'm Devin. Stephanie.
Say my name for me. Bye.
Adios.